Call meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have roll call, please. Ashley?
Councilmember Kraus,
Yes.
Selby, Miller,
Yes.
Phillipson,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Okay, we have an item that I would like to add to the agenda under mayor and city council, a line item B, retirement letter for city manager Hill. So I'll need a motion to accept that.
Also motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Okay, we have citizens' comments. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to approach the council, please do so. Doesn't appear we have anybody, so we have no public hearings. We will move on to reading and approval of the January 24th regular meeting minutes.
I will move approval of the January 24 regular minutes.
I will second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. And now we have the condensed version of the minutes.
I'll move approval of the condensed version of the 124-23 minutes.
I will second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Now we have the January 31st work session meeting minutes.
I'll move approval of the work session meeting minutes from January 31st.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the audit of city bills, transit report, gambling report, the raffle permit for the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, the park board minutes, and the consumption and display permit for Crystal Lanes and Entertainment. And I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Before you get a second, I just have a question on the audit, and this is probably just me not knowing, but something like line 35, I assume that's on the city bills there. I assume that's just like a contract we have in place.
Yeah,
Someone?
I was gonna open it up to discussion after we had a second on that, I guess if
Understood.
that's okay?
Yep.
And then we can open it up for discussion, so if I get a second on that, then we'll go ahead and open it up.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, again, could you restate your,
Yeah, so I guess it's just me being new, right? But something like line 35, I assume that's just like a contract we have in place with someone for some of that.
Yeah, to provide a slime
Yep.
for the water treatment plant.
Is that a monthly charge or not really?
It's
depends on-
whenever they deliver. That's, so when they need lime, then they'll come and bring lime. There's a couple big towers there that they wind up putting the lime.
Not necessarily every month, just as needed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Same.
it wasn't on last month's.
same way with
yeah.
ash, so
Yep.
the soda ash that we wind up getting.
So that's why I asked, because I didn't see it on the previous
Yep.
month, so just confirmation more than anything.
good question.
Line item 9, Bolton and Mink, engineering fees, T-Mobile Sprint, 3,500.
Yep, so, there's 3, 4 companies up on the water tower, T-Mobile, Sprint. We have a lease agreement with them to allow them to have things on our water tower. And when they upgrade their equipment, one of the requirements we have with them is that, they have to provide us a deposit of, it was actually $10,000, and that money is used to pay our engineers to oversee their construction on our water tower. So that's what this Bolton and Mink bill is for. So we actually have the money on hand to pay this bill. So they work directly for us, and then they're basically doing construction oversight inspection on the project for T-Mobile, and actually now Verizon's gonna update their equipment on the water tower too.
Thank you.
So that'll be coming up.
So at any time that they update their equipment on the water tower, then
Yep.
then we have Bolton and Mink
Yep.
oversee that?
Yeah, they're required, because we don't know what they're gonna be doing up there, and this is, they have engineers that specialize in water towers and communication devices that are put on water towers, and actually, there's a lot of stuff up there.
How often does someone like that come out and do an update on their
Um,
hardware?
It's not very often. I mean, the interesting part is Verizon contacted us and we said, well, actually Sprint is up there now getting ready to do stuff, and it, you know, it's like, when are they gonna be done? And I said, you have to talk to the engineer. Because Jamie Connor is the engineer that works for Bolton Mink, and he knows and understands everything that's there, and they have to work directly with him on that. So, you know, one of the things that happened was they put a generator, I believe they put the generator up there. We updated our lease to allow them space to put a generator, you know, in case the power goes out. I think that was Verizon. And then actually, Sprint brought in a new fiber optic line, and they wanted permission from us to bring the fiber optic line in. It's like, we don't own the land. It's the university's land, actually. And so then they had to negotiate with the school to get a fiber optic line brought into the water tower area. It's very complicated, and so then we defer to the engineers to watch over it.
And then I have a question, where was it at now? Picnic tables, 83, line item 83. Are those picnic tables we already have, or new
They
ones?
ordered them.
They were, okay. Where, do we know, are they going in a specific spot or wherever they are needed?
Yeah, I think they're all over the place. They just had to get the order in, and then there's an amount budgeted to update so many of them each year.
Sure.
So Russ put the order in, because they take a little bit to get.
Thanks.
All right. Good discussion. Any more questions or discussions on the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second on that, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same side. Carried. All right, we will move on to petitions, requests, and communications. We have an appointment of Jane Lessmeister to the Community Education Board and Advisory Council, rather, and Deb Rose to the Park Board. So we'll just need a motion to approve both of those. Any discussion on the appointments?
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Jane Lessmeister to the Community Ed Advisory Council and Deb Rose to the Park Board.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Okay, now we can move on to ordinances and resolutions. We have an ordinance, the first one is an A, resolution authorizing a fund transfer.
Yeah, so what this is it's a transfer excess funds in the general fund to the capital outlay fund, where we have our main reserves for the city. It's $500,000. I don't know if you remember during COVID, we talked about technically as a city we've set a position to have 35% of our general fund as a reserve, and Whitney watches over that. And then during COVID, we decided we weren't gonna move any excess money out of the general fund, because we didn't know what was gonna happen with COVID, we didn't know what was gonna happen with local government aid and all those kind of things. And in the end, we wound up having the extra money in that year, the next year, and now this year, and realistically, this is still at 40%. It's not down to 35% of a reserve, but this is money that's left over in the general fund for a number of different reasons. Obviously, we made a change in 2022 with regards to law enforcement, but over the years, if we don't spend all of our money, it sits there in reserve, and then we move it over into the capital outlay fund. So that's a nice chunk of money that's going over there to sit, and we use it in case we need it in the future, and in some cases, you know, we've budgeted excess money coming out of there to do some of the things that we wanted to do, and that's pretty much it.
Any further discussion on that resolution? Questions?
I noticed the date on that transfer made effective 12/31/22. That's just backdating it.
Yes, so this is a year-end entry
Yeah.
that we look at each year, so it is in effect for the year-end
Okay.
2022.
Do we need a motion on that, Mayor?
No, well, we'll need a roll call vote on that resolution as soon as we're done discussing it. No further discussion on that? Okay, we'll just have roll call vote on that resolution, please.
Was there?
I don't believe there was a motion made.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, we gotta have a motion and a second, that's right.
I'll
Yeah.
move on that,
Resolution,
authorizing that fund transfer.
Got a motion?
Yep.
I will second that. Now, we can have roll call vote on that resolution.
Councilmember Kraus,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes.
Mayor Wallers.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to the next resolution, which is a resolution approving a lime waste removal contract with Cyril Farms LLC.
Yeah, so this is actually the lime that we're getting from the other company. After we're done with the softening process, there's a lime sludge that's generated and it has to be hauled out. We had a contract with Meixel Farms out of Starbuck to take it, and they got to the point where they didn't need it anymore. So we advertised for bids for companies to farms or whoever to come and get the waste, and we only had one. It was from Cyril Farms of Donley. That is Brad Cyril, who is our fleet manager. And just so you know, I reached out to Riverview Farms and a few other places. I don't know if I think I might have sent you an email at one point, Brian, but it just depends on where the farmland is and whether or not they need to adjust it. They can use lime to adjust it, and Brad was interested in it and put a bid in on that, and so this is the same exact contract as far as the language and everything that we had with Meixel Farms. It's a 3-year deal, and he's actually been doing it because once Meixel gave us notice they weren't going to do it anymore, we had to have it hauled out on an ongoing basis, and now we're just formalizing a contract with Cyril Farms. And there's about 2,100 cubic feet of,
Cubic yards.
cubic yards of lime sludge that gets hauled out, and
You know, I think we're fortunate to have somebody that's willing to take it and use it. If that point in time ever would come that we don't get anybody, then what are we looking at?
I don't know what we do.
Is it
'Cause you
something
get-
that you can, yeah, because we're paying him to haul it out, right?
Right.
So is it something like compostable manure or something that you can bag up and sell that way? I mean,
No,
'cause, yeah, I was
it's-
thinking that too at some
If
point.
you go by the water plant, you're gonna see
pile,
a
yeah.
big white pile there. It looks like snow, and they just spread it on farm fields, kind of like fertilizer.
Yeah.
It
but-
adjusts the balance in the soil. It's used,
But that's
for
what I
the
mean, is
soil
it
balance
something
on
that
the
you can
crops they
sell
raise.
to a landscaping or a?
Yeah,
it
I
costs
don't,
more for the transportation than what it's actually
Hmm.
worth. I mean, it's a byproduct of a sugar beet process, you know, so they normally up there give it away, but you gotta pay just to get in and out to get it. So it's, not real valuable, but it's a usable agricultural product.
No, I get where it's usable. I'm just wondering if we only had one bid this time and we are, like you said, Mayor, running out of people to, then what do we do with it?
We
let
just
it
looked
go?
locally, I suppose, didn't we? Bill?
no, we looked all over the place. We've talked to other places. The original contract that we have is from St. Cloud, because they do this same process up in St. Cloud, and they do, a contract with the farmer to haul it out. There was a company that we had talked to that's like, almost a nationwide company that tries to find places to get rid of this. That's the whole key to this. You gotta find places, and this is quite a bit of product that you're getting rid of, but, we talked to Bill Kleindell about whether or not it could be landfilled, and the landfill doesn't want it, you know,
Well,
just because
I
of
mean,
it.
we're getting like, okay, what
Yeah.
happens if now Searle in his 3 years says, I don't need any more either?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then
I don't know what's gonna happen.
is there a,
You know,
probably should be something that's looked into. Or
we
what
don't
do
wanna, yeah, well, we're trying. I know Ryan's been talking to other people and trying to figure out what they do. Cause we don't wanna just start building a big pile,
No,
because even though we might have a land to do it, that's not the way to do it.
If, you know, if it did come to stockpiling it, if we can't find a home for it, is it toxic? I mean, is it
No.
something that we
No,
gotta be
it's
concerned
not,
about from
no,
that end?
no, and actually MPCA has some specific rules. No, I think with landfills, it's just the nature of, you know, landfills have their own issues and things like that, and, you know, putting cover on a landfill and all that kind of stuff, but no, it's not toxic, it's not, I mean, you could stockpile it, but, that's not the way to do it. The best thing to do is find farmers that
I know.
need to adjust their fields. And you'll see like turkey manure, you know, if you go up near the turkey processing places, you'll see big piles of turkey manure sitting on the corners of fields, you know, that they get rid of, and then they spread them out onto the land and stuff like that.
Good discussion. Any other questions or comments?
With this contract, I assume that all liability for transport, and, I mean, I read that in there that transport falls on Searle Farm there.
Yep.
Is there anything that could potentially come back from a legality standpoint about potentially on the city of?
No, and they
Contamination or
have
anything?
insurance, and they have a bond in case, you know, for some reason they don't perform. They have to give us notice if they're not gonna do it, which Mikesell did way ahead. I mean, Mikesell was really good about it. You know, I think he gave us, you know, probably 6 months' notice, before he stopped taking it anymore, so that worked out pretty good, but that's part of the agreement, is that you have to have insurance, and you also have to meet the requirements that MPCA has. They're just using it for themselves, so there's less requirements than if you're gonna use it and distribute it for other people, or sell it, you know, somebody could take it and then sell it and distribute it, you know, for other people, you know, but we haven't seen anybody that does that around here.
All right.
And it is a 3-year agreement with a 2-year option to automatically renew.
Right.
At the end, if they need to keep, you know, longer than what he thinks needs to be done, longer than the 2 years, would that be a new contract, or would that be?
Yeah, we'd
working
bring it
into-
back. It'd come back to the city
Yep.
council to
Okay.
update it.
Good discussion.
I will move a resolution approving a lime waste removal contract with Searle Farms for removal of the lime byproduct from our water softening plant.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that resolution. We will have roll call vote on that. Ashley?
Councilmember Selby,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Sillexen,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Wallers,
Yes. All right, we'll move on to the last of the three resolutions. This one is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 9 Heartseed AEDs through the Stevens County Ambulance Service.
Yeah, so this initially came up when the state of Minnesota driver's licensing testing, people suggested that maybe this building have a AED in it, because other buildings that they operate out of, it's not a requirement, but that's a suggestion that they made. And it kind of struck me that we didn't have an AED in this building. It was a senior citizens building, and then we got to looking around, and we had other buildings where we have workers and don't have AEDs. The library has one, obviously the fire hall has one. So then I reached out to Josh to talk to him about this. And then actually in the park board meeting, Tony Reimers was talking about this, because they've picked up a couple that, there's one out at Chiswick Field. And Tony was talking about having some available that you could, you know, when certain events start happening, like summer ball diamond events and stuff like that, that we'd have one available. And so then they were interested in getting some of them, and then we just talked about, let's just go in together, and Josh got a good price for us to buy these, so we would be purchasing all 9 of them through the ambulance service, and then the community ed and rec would reimburse us for 3 of them that they would take. And then actually Josh said once we get them, he'll actually come in and do some training with people in the various buildings on how to use them. So the one thing that I hadn't heard back from Josh on the exact amount, the amount's gonna be a little bit less, because there's a discount on the purchases that we're making, and he didn't know if it was gonna apply to the extra pads for young kids and the wall mount cabinets, but it did. So it's gonna be slightly less than this amount, but this is the quote that I have. So I'll have you go ahead and approve that, and then he'll bill us whatever the actual amount is. It's gonna be a little bit less, because there's gonna be a discount on that. But that'll be good. And then all the buildings will have AEDs in them, and be safer for everyone.
What is the upkeep on that, though? They don't last
Batteries.
every, how long? And then that's
Probably
like,
every
is there-
couple of years. It depends on where they're at, you know. I know on the law enforcement ones, depends, you know, if it's not heated, you know, like these buildings are heated, so they're gonna last longer. But, you know, that's one of those things too, where Josh can go around and check them for us, make sure that they're up to date, and you know, it's probably the best thing that could happen for them as an ambulance services to have these available, so people can start working on people right away.
I mean, is there any liability to someone who's working on someone?
I don't think so, not that I know
The Good Samaritan law pretty much protects you. You do everything you are able to do up to your knowledge level, and the other option is they're gonna die. So, and I think I'd read in here, it's like an 8-year warranty or guarantee on the purchase also, so.
The pads also are like a consumable item, right? So they have a best by date more or less as
Sure.
well.
Yeah, so there's a couple things
Yeah.
that are
Yep.
ongoing expenses.
I think makes sense to be prepared.
Are we concerned at all about the outdoor wall mount, like weathering or potential vandalism or anything with that?
Probably vandalism. The one out at Chiswick, though, has an alarm on it. So if somebody goes and opens it, the alarm will sound. And I know Tony Reimers was saying that there's at least one in the school where if they open it, it automatically dials 911, which should, you know, I don't know how that works, but if a kid happens, and it's happened apparently that somebody opened it up and then the alarm went off and they dialed 911. But yeah, that's something, vandalism's always gonna be a key thing to consider. Like, I think the one in Chiswick, is that in the concession stand?
Yeah.
I think it's in the concession stand. So the location of these are important. I talked to Josh Fisher about that, and, you know, where do you actually put these things? And he actually brought a temporary one for us for the community center here, but it doesn't have a cabinet, and so there's no place to put it. You can't just set it out on the counter and leave it there. And, yeah, I think the ones with the alarm, you know, if a little kid, you know, opens it up and the alarm goes off, you know, and runs away with it, that might happen. But
Okay. Any other discussion on the resolution? I will go ahead and move on that resolution authorizing the purchase of 9 Heart-Scene AEDs through the Stevens County Ambulance Service.
I will second.
Excuse me. Okay, we have a motion and a second on that resolution. We will have a roll call vote. Ashley?
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Delason,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Wallers.
Yes. All right, we shall move on to the city manager newsletter.
so the first item on the newsletter was, everybody received a meeting request from the Morris Campus Student Association. And as of right now, I still don't know exactly what the topic is that they wanna, I think what they wanna do is they wanna talk about, you know, interaction between the city council and the campus student association. But one of the things I did is, I shared with you, some concern about, the open meeting law and being able to do it. I actually went and, talked to Aaron Jordan about it. And then, yesterday, I had a meeting with, the vice president of the Campus Student Association and talked about it. And the suggestion I made was that, I don't believe you can have a closed meeting between the city council and the Campus Student Association. But maybe the mayor and one of the council members wants to go meet, you know, and that would be a good way to kind of open up that dialogue between the city and the student association. And I think it's long overdue that we do that. You know, I've mentioned that before, that you know, they work with all the students on campus and know and understand what issues are, and to have that discussion. They're talking about having a summit out on the campus with students and having a panel discussion and stuff. And I said I would be more than willing to be there for that. And actually, I think if the city council was simply invited to a summit and you sat in the audience and weren't part of a meeting, you could probably do that and get away with that. And maybe, a lot of times what'll happen is, if I know that there's gonna be enough to maybe have a quorum in a certain place, like you know, it could be a fundraiser, it could be a funeral, it could be whatever. Sometimes what we can do is just let the press know that it's possible that you could have a quorum of the city council in the same place. But this is a meeting, and it was actually mentioned that it would be a closed conversation. I don't think you can do that under the terms of the open meeting law. You can do it for certain things, but I don't think that would fall under that. So, and I haven't heard back from Noelle yet, as far as she was gonna go back to the vice president was gonna go back to the council and kind of throw that idea around. But I think that would be a good solution to it. to do it that way, and what I can do is, and then you did, otherwise, if you were gonna have a meeting, you'd have to set one at a council meeting and give notice to the public and to the newspaper, publish it in the newspaper and stuff like that. But this one doesn't really rise to that. You could invite them to come and talk to you at a council meeting, but your meetings are open to the public, so everybody can kind of see what's going on. So I'll throw that back to you. If that sounds like maybe a solution, then we can wait to hear back from them, and then I don't know if there's another council member that would be interested in participating in that. I think they're still talking about the 22nd of February, which is a Wednesday night. I think originally it was 6
I
o'clock?
think they said 6, but that may change.
Yeah, well, and in talking to Noel yesterday, I don't know that everything was locked down yet. You know, to include maybe even the date. But if you're interested in that, and if somebody else is interested, I think
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
a good solution.
I'd certainly be willing to meet with them. If I have another brave soul to go with me, that'd be fantastic, otherwise I could do it alone.
Well, it depends upon when it is. I mean,
Yeah. So I can get back to you on that. Actually, Noel, I've worked with Noel. She's worked on Morse model stuff before. And so it was kind of nice to talk to her again. So we can go ahead and do that. And then I'll get back to you. FEMA. So two things I would say. I kind of said it earlier about Whitney, but this was a huge undertaking, huge. You know, we had the storm last May, and anytime you're dealing with these major storms and the federal disaster relief and all that, it's huge. I think we lucked out on 2 accounts. One, that Whitney worked on it, and I do not say that lightly. I think I've been through these a number of times in Breckenridge and flooding, and they're just massively intensive. But did a fabulous job taking care of it, and actually we got our main funding this morning in a federal transfer, and all total, it's gonna be about $264,000. And I just wanted to clarify one thing, because I think last time we transferred some money into that storm fund, and, you know, sometimes I'm dealing with so many things, I kind of looked at it and it's like, why are we doing that? Because everything should be covered, but really what that was transferring money in before year end to make sure that we have no funds that are in a deficit status. But the majority of that money was going to be covered by insurance, you know, so we were going to get reimbursed for that money. So it's not like we spent all that money and now we had to cover the bills. All this stuff is covered. I don't know if you had a final number for what we actually paid out that cost us something, but in the end, the majority of this is money that's reimbursing us for time, equipment, the normal things that we would have been doing. I think the final piece to this was the admin part of it, so there's about $12,000 of reimbursing for our admin time. It wasn't overtime, it wasn't any of that, but it's all things that we are allowed to collect money from the federal government for. They covered the roof. You know, we talked about that before, where we had to kind of redo the roof at the fire hall, redesign it a little bit, and that cost us some extra money. They covered that. They covered some changes at the airport with the big hangar door because the old design wasn't available anymore and stuff like that. And so, you know, Whitney oversaw that. The second thing that we're lucky is the FEMA rep that we had was actually the supervisor. And when I first heard that, it's like, oh, this is not going to go well. This is the kind of anal retentive guy that takes care of everything, you know, that's going to be watching everything really close. But it wound up being the opposite. This was the expert that knew every little thing that we should be able to get. and prompted us what we needed to do to get it all, like the roof on the fire hall and all the little pieces, the generator, if we had to change something for the future, to offset some of the things that we're dealing with. Just constantly making suggestions, you might wanna do this, you might wanna do that. And then at the same time, as Whitney was feeding this person stuff, he's like the final say on all this stuff. And so it's like, okay, you're good, you're good, you're good. And, you know, the fact that we already got almost every bit of our funding already in our checking account is amazing to me, you know, because it was May of last year and we're pretty much done and pretty much the money is already back in the bank. And the last piece I would just say to you is that if you remember during the budget, we talked about some of this money because it's reimbursing us for labor and equipment time. We did utilize equipment very heavily. One of the things that we talked about during the budget was we talked about a backhoe, and rather than purchase it through capital outlay funding, we talked about waiting to see what was going to happen with FEMA funding and maybe using FEMA funding to purchase that. Well, now we have the funding, and I talked to Russ Brigham and the utility guys about, you know, putting together kind of their list of things. I mean, there's some small things, chainsaws and all kinds of stuff like that that we did. But generators, I think, well, that was the other thing that we found out this morning was it was going to be about a year to get our new generator because, you know, the supply shortages, equipment shortages and all that. So they're about a year out on a new CAT generator, but they found one in St. Paul that was exactly what we needed, and it was like nobody had their thumbprint on it, and so then they allocated it to us, so I think that one's on the way now. So we don't have to wait for it, and that's good news because the next storm that we have, we're gonna have a brand new generator sitting at the wastewater plant. So, kudos to Whitney for that, and then the audit, you know, I mentioned that earlier, because I talked to you talked to the auditor today too, because that's part of the audit is they check with elected officials, administrative officials to find out what's going on in the city, and they love working with Whitney, because you get them their answers immediately. Yeah.
I was just gonna add with the FEMA that after invoices and such, we'll net about $225,000 for labor and equipment time and usage.
Yeah, so that's available for us to, you know, and, you know, the recommendation is that we look at using that to make ourselves, you know, ready for the next one that comes, because there's certain things that we can do to do that. So that's that. Any questions on FEMA?
No, I'd like to just say I know how hard that stuff is, so thank you, Whitney, for doing a great
It was
job.
a lot of people helping, it wasn't just me,
Well-
but we did a good job together. So.
You go and tell them from us, we really do appreciate that, because that is some hard work and getting that stuff and working with the auditors and all that stuff, so, thank you.
And I think we have our EV bus ordered.
Yes, it's ordered.
I signed the order on it, so, that, you know, I think we had 20 emails after the fact, you know, because they're still asking questions and stuff. So that's, gonna be a matter of whenever they can build it and get it to us, and I put a note in here too about, this is something that we deal with from time to time. I mentioned in here, I think I mentioned, my first job for the city was dealing with utility bills when I first started there in 1980. And I can tell you that if somebody walks into City Hall and says, I have a high utility bill, something must be wrong. And it's like, it's your plumbing. That's usually what it is, most likely a toilet. And so we'll get, like this one, we had a dad that was actually very mad that his daughter was living in a house that they own, going to college, and they had a $900 water bill. But I think what happened was something was running and somebody left and went on break and came back, and that's what happens. I mean, I've seen really bad ones. I think the worst one I ever saw was somebody left and didn't didn't heat the house, and when it warmed up in the springtime, all the pipes broke and the basement was half full of water, and that was a pretty big bill. But the policy is that we don't write off any of these bills. You know, that's just the way it is. And if somebody comes to me and says, well, you should be able to do something with it, and it's like, well, we can't, you know, just because it costs us money to get that there. So I just wanted to make you aware of that in case that comes up. And
When we put in the new metering system on our water meters, it supposedly was supposed to allow us to watch to see if there was an excessive usage. Is that something that we just missed, or is this not big enough? or-
We get that, and then we also can do downloads to particular houses, so if they request it. And so we found that it was, basically we traced it back to the toilet that was running all through Christmas break.
yeah, so we bill every 2 months, so you can catch them when you bill.
But we can't
But it's
get a
already-
warning or
Yeah.
some type of an alarm if there's an excessive or continuous water running?
Yeah,
Not,
Okay.
not from a house.
Okay, I just was under the impression that we
And
could
more
trigger
likely
and
when,
monitor.
more than likely when the person came back, they noticed it and corrected it. And actually I don't think it was the first time that the plumber had been to this house, you know, so. But, yeah, it's just, it's sad because we don't wanna waste water either. And we have to account for all the water that we put out of the water treatment plant.
Well, I'll just comment on that because I know it happened to me one time because I think it was my ice maker water or whatever. The guy left the hose off, so it ran. But then when I got my bill, there was a note in there that it was excessive. Somebody put a note in there.
Right.
So otherwise, I mean, I would have noticed that it was a lot higher, but then I obviously I looked around and I noticed it, and yeah, I think mine was like $300 or something. It went on for quite a while, but it's nobody's fault but mine, and whatever, it shouldn't be on the city. You still use the water no matter if your equipment broke or not. So I'm in agreement with you on that. I
Yeah.
don't think that we should be doing that.
Probably just two more quick items, and then I'll answer any questions. I gave you a handout, I believe, with LGA stuff on it. Was that in your packet?
It was in our,
Yeah, that was in your packet, and I just wanted to mention that today the League of Minnesota Cities sent out a information thing. So the House bill, which the House is controlled by the Democrats, the House bill includes $150 million in local government aid increase, and they think the Senate bill is going to have the same thing. The governor's budget, he proposed $30 million more, but the House bill is 150, and at 150 million more in local government aid, the city's share would go up about $465,000 in the LGA. So that's just something that we're watching really close to find out what's going to happen with that, because and for what it's worth, if they do nothing, you know, next year our LGA goes up about $1,000. So if it's our major funding source and it doesn't rise at all, then, you know, you're gonna have to figure out what to do with that, taxes or using some of your reserves, whatever it is. But that was good news, that was written by the Democrats and put into the committees to start working on it. And then the other thing I would just mention is that after the SEIC meeting that we had on Thursday, we toured the Hudson Inn. And I know he was talking about trying to get some rooms starting to rent in March. It's amazing what's been done in there. Just really, not major changes to the way it looks, but just updating everything that's there. You know, the rooms and you know, whether it's, you know, painting in the hallway or whatever it is. And it just really looked nice, and they're looking at doing a restaurant, they're looking at the whole event center kind of reception area has been redone, and I think the big thing he was trying to do is find somebody to cook, to be a chef in this restaurant and stuff like that. But the plan is to get that thing opened up and start bringing people in there, and yeah, there must have been there's a mattress for every bed in that building sitting inside the pool area, brand new ones that they bought. So And I would just leave it at that. If you got any other questions, I would answer them.
I just thought I'd point out on your newsletter, you shared with us the Tour of Minnesota bike ride that's coming. We know it's a ways off in June 21st, but, you know, June will come fairly quickly. If there's a way, maybe Kim, you could just reach out to the tourism and just give them a heads up that that's coming, so we can get that. It's nice when you have an influx of people like that coming into town.
Yeah, it's
nice
kind of
to-
fun, because they'll camp behind the elementary school, you know, and so I got a questionnaire from them asking me about Morris, and they wanted the history of Morris, and they wanted some other stuff, and it's like, how close is the medical treatment center in Morris to where we're gonna be at? And it's like, yeah, across the street. So that worked out pretty good, but they've been here before. I remember the last time they're here, it was kind of fun to see everybody. They roll in and do their thing. They'll be wandering around uptown and being in restaurants, all kinds of stuff. And then they'll get up early in the morning and they'll take off and they'll go to the next place.
Approximate number on that?
I would imagine there's probably gonna be 200, 300, 400 people in that, I would guess. It's a pretty big group.
It seemed like it was a
Especially
lot
now
bigger than
with-
that the olden days, but I just
Yeah.
curious if they have a rough idea what it is.
I
but-
think, especially now with COVID kinda being behind us a little bit,
Hopefully.
but,
This is the guy sitting in the
as the
mask.
guy's sitting.
Always a late,
But,
always a late bloomer.
Yeah, you know, they're finding people are out and about doing more things now, so that's kinda nice.
What can I say? Any other thing on the city manager's newsletter? Questions, comments? Hearing none. We can move on to mayor and city council. We have, the first thing on there is the board member updates. What do you got for us there, Blaine? I didn't really see anything in the packet.
Well, I put that for you.
Oh, that's just
That's-
kind of, we'll just open it up, I get that. Let's just open it up, if there's anybody that has any updates from any of the other boards
I don't
know.
that they're recently
I
on.
don't know if have we had any meetings since?
No,
It's kind of, well, we had park board, Jeff wasn't at the park board meeting. We did have a park board meeting, so then, the big issue with the park board is, I met with the vendors for the pickleball courts, so that project is all lined up, you know, they're gonna start, as soon as our guys can in probably April, May, tearing out the tennis courts and fences and all that, and then they'll lay a gravel base, and then Patrick Olson from Eagle Concrete will come in, and he will kind of lay the initial lines and stuff for that pad, and then when his guys come in, they'll build the pad, and the outdoor sports system guy will come down and put in the posts and things for the pickleball court and basketball hoops and stuff like that. And then the last vendor is Town and Country Fence will do all the fencing for it. So it should be done probably by June. Everything done. The concrete's got to cure for about 30 days. And at the same time, when Eagle comes down, they'll do the sidewalks in Wells Park and Green River Park, and the fence guy actually has the backstops at Wells Park he's gonna be doing, and the outfield fence for the softball field at Chiswick, the main softball field. So it was kinda nice to get everybody together on a Zoom meeting, so everybody knows who's gonna be doing what and when, and so that was the big one there. And then there's lots of benches being donated. I don't know, I think Women of Today, we're up to like 16 benches? So far, I think they have a goal of 22 benches. So you're gonna see a lot more benches sitting around the bike path and the various parks and stuff like that, all donated from different people. And so that was kind of a nice project, you know, to get people involved with parks.
All right, let's see. Then we have, any other discussion from any other boards? That doesn't sound like it. We can move on with the added item, I guess the time has come. I guess we all knew this was coming, but we all received a notice of retirement letter from City Manager Hill. This retirement will be effective June 30th. So, first of all, thank you for giving us, some time here. And, Blaine, you have a lot of history here in Morris. You're gonna certainly be missed. You indicate in your letter about some of the things that, you were able to achieve, and I could certainly read the letter if everybody would like to hear it, or it's you indicate in here in a lot of places that you received a lot, but, Blaine, you gave a lot to this city in return, so you should be commended for that. Council members, discussion on that. We will, at the end of the discussion, we'll of course need a motion to approve his, I guess, retirement. But
Well, being on the council for a little over 10 years, but you've been here the whole time too, so it's been educational. You keep us well informed. I think that you do a great job, that, and also your job is a tough job when you're dealing with all the public and having to say no to things and run the business of the city. So I've enjoyed working with you. It's been really great. I'm kind of sad to see you go, but I see that what you want to do, and I'm glad you gave us some time. And and my suggestion too is after we probably approve this, we might want to talk about maybe a meeting maybe a special meeting for the council to start the process.
yeah, that's obviously we haven't, this is new uncharted territory for us. You've been here for 17 years as a city manager, well before any of us were sitting in these chairs probably, well, outside of Jeff probably. I think, was Jeff here when you started?
I can't remember. I can't remember. I mean, because Carol was here. I think Carol was here.
Yeah, yeah, no question. We'll have to start the search, and I think Councilmember Salvi it's a good idea to get a plan on how we're gonna find your replacement.
Yeah, the big thing, as I mentioned in my letter, I don't know if a lot of people know, but the first job I ever had was with the city of Morris as an accountant when I was 21 years old and went to school to be an accountant. And to be able to come into City Hall, the same building that I started my career, and we were just talking this morning about it because I let the staff know that I was going to be retiring, and in City Hall we actually had the people that are there now, but then we had all the transit people in there. We had an assessor, we had a planner, we had a building inspector, we had a 4-person engineering department in there. So it was a big crew of people that were working out of that building, and over time, we kind of downsized and became more efficient and started contracting with the county for assessing and stuff like that. But one of the things I mentioned, and I think it's really important, is the city let me go to college. So while I was working full-time as an accountant, I always had to joke when I was sitting around college students out at the student center that were complaining about their homework and their work schedule, and it's like I had to start an hour early and stayed an hour late. The saving grace was that transit ran out of City Hall, and so I could jump on a transit bus, get dropped off in front of the building that I was going to class, get picked back up, and then come right back to City Hall. So it was really efficient for me. And then the city manager at the time, there's only been 2 city managers since like 1984, I think it is. I was going to go back and look. But the city manager actually let me intern working on union negotiations and some things like that. And that's really what sparked my interest in administration. And then I got a chance to go up to Breckenridge, and then I got a chance to come back here. But the other part of that was, for about 34 years, I was in the military, and I was away a lot. I was talking this morning how, well, we were talking about when they had the big meat packers strike in Austin, Minnesota. You know, I got a call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and by midnight, I was in Austin, Minnesota, as an officer in charge of some people in a platoon that wound up being on the front line of meat packers strike and all kinds of stuff like that we wound up doing. But without the city being my employer, it would have been a much more difficult thing to do. And there's a lot of people that couldn't do what I did, you know. So I'm very appreciative of that, you know. And Morris is my home. I'm not going anywhere. I got grandkids here, and that's my plan, is to start spending more time with them and doing some stuff like that. But I'll always be here. And you know, the fact that 27 of my 43 years was spent working for the city of Morris is pretty hard to forget, you know. So I'll be part of that, you know, moving forward. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Blaine, for all of your years of commitment to the city. And it's, I guess, let the search begin, but it's not going to be real easy, but we'll roll up our sleeves and get after it, I guess. Any other discussion on the retirement letter?
If not, I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to accept the retirement letter for City Manager Hill. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carried. Enjoy your retirement when it comes.
Hey, he's not done yet. Lots more meetings, and this isn't gonna be a coasting time, Kevin.
Not sending you down yet, but I know you're gonna love retirement.
I will not be a lame
smiling,
duck.
but yeah, thank you.
It's not a
Thank
bad
you.
gig. Okay, moving on, we have to set a date for the Board of Review. Technically, it looks like we got it set at April 3rd, 2023 at 5:15 here at the Senior Citizen Center. That would be a Monday. I think we're up to speed, aren't we, on qualified? We have to have two, I think I'm still
I
good.
think we
on
have
that.
enough.
We have to have at least two of us that are qualified. I think I am, and I think Jeff is. You know, Kim, where you're at?
No, I'm not, I'm the lame duck
You're
I'm not
pretty tough
qualified.
on that.
not qualified.
I think
to
that we
handle
have at
that
least
part.
two.
I know Jeff usually is.
You don't know what the dates are on
I don't.
I
We
think-
can get them to you though.
I think
But I
we
think
have
Jeff
it.
is.
those.
I'm pretty sure Jeff, I don't think I am either anymore
I think
either.
it's just Jeff and I know
Yeah.
Sheldon, I think, was, but now, of course, he's gone, so it's just us two. But something to maybe think about, we might have to get a couple more
Right.
going on
Is it-
that. It's relatively easy. You just take that course online, Zach, just for your information. We have to have at least two people on that Board of Review that are state, what's the technical word for that? Certified or,
Credentialed or certified.
I think it's something to that effect, but anyway, it's fairly easy process. You can go online, take
Is there
courses.
it seems like there was a site sent one time to
Yep,
me.
yeah, you
is
can-
that,
Yep.
where's that, cause
I
that's
always
something
got it
Ashley
from
can
Judy
get?
Thorstad, but I don't think
Uh.
she's there anymore.
Okay,
The county would be able to get that to us, I'm sure. Just reach out to them and they could let us know. All
Yeah,
right.
well,
send it to both.
I'll have them reach out to
For
you.
now, I guess all we're looking for is a motion to set the date. for that Board
I'll
of
move
Review.
on that motion to set the date for April 3rd, 2023 at 5:15 at the Senior Citizen Community Center.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Carried. The LGA figures, Blaine, you kind of touched on it a
Yeah, and
little bit, but-
I gave you that.
Yeah.
that handout, so
Yep, looks like
the
it.
big update was the fact that it, actually, the legislation was for 150 million more in LGA, and that's what we wanted to see, so. Doesn't mean it's gonna end that way, but, if it's a Democratic controlled government, and that's what the House had, I think the Senate's gonna be the same version of that.
Okay, well, after the council meeting is adjourned here, we were gonna have a discussion, a presentation would probably be the right way. Jude and Griffin are gonna speak to us about resiliency, so any other business to come before the council?
I just have one quick thing, as
Sure.
we're doing all these, spending the AED money and discussing the vandalism, and what if a kid takes, you know, that $1,800, are we gonna start looking at a security system for our parks? I mean, the money that,
Yeah.
the time money and the downtime, is that something that,
Yeah, I think Russ talked about trail cameras and stuff like that, you know, to try to catch them.
more, okay.
I think we should take a more active
I
position.
do, I really do, I think this last year and
I
how
agree.
much time was down at East Side and
Right.
no bathrooms, and I just think this is, I mean, yeah, so maybe we can.
Yep, good idea.
I agree, I think we ought to push that forward, because I know we've talked about it, East Side Park, several times, and
And like I said,
Talk
when
isn't
the
getting
first
us
thing
anywhere.
is a kid gonna take that? Yeah, well, there goes $1,800 to
Yeah,
every time, and,
yeah, we won't put them up, so we'll try to figure that out.
okay, that was my one thing.
glad you mentioned that, actually.
Yeah, and looking at the park board minutes that are in our packet as well, there was something about cameras being placed as well, so.
Okay,
All right, any other business to come before the council?
I think we should consider maybe setting a date for a special meeting, just to get the ball rolling and decide, what we need to do and who needs to do it.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's gonna get kicked down the road here for a while.
Good with that?
I don't know what anybody wants to do, but I mean, the 2 Tuesdays in between our next 2 meetings would be the 21st of February or March 7th. It would be a Tuesday at 5 o'clock, or I'm, like I said, I'm available whenever we want to. I was just suggesting that if you kept it on a Tuesday.
So the 21st is planning commission,
At 5?
yep,
Yeah.
in here.
I mean, any date is fine with me too. I mean, it can be whatever. I guess maybe we need to send an email around or something, Mayor, that maybe we could put a few dates together or something, and council member could put their dates that we need to do it. It's kinda hard to come up with a date right now, but I think we need to keep it in our mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Something in
the
the
first
next 2
Tuesday
weeks.
of March would be
Right.
March 7th,
Right.
but we could maybe look at that. It's not that far away, it's only a week and a half.
Well, I think if we called and set it for that, we could always change it too, if it
it's
didn't
actually
work out.
3 weeks away, Kevin.
Right.
Tuesday, March 7th.
Yeah, we're only on the 14th.
June 30th is gonna come like a steam engine, so.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know, but, okay. We could just tentatively set it on that meeting date then, Tuesday, March 1st.
7th,
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're right.
or do
Yeah,
that
March-
first.
March 7th, that's the first Tuesday in March,
Yep.
at 5:15 then?
Yes.
Okay, special session. All right.
I'll make a motion to set a special, session of the city council on March 7th at 5:15.
Well, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that special session. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same side. Carried. Okay. Any other business to come before the council? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned.